And now, without any further delay, I would like to turn today's SEMA event, Fuel Your Sales with Better Product Data, over to your moderator, Jamie Erickson. Jamie, you now have the floor.
Well, thanks, Nicole. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SEMA Education Institute webinar program. We are so glad that you're joining us today. We're particularly excited for today's session with the SEMA Data Co-op. This is the first public demonstration of the SDC's brand new online management tools. They're going to be sharing a lot of exciting information with you today, so hang tight. We are very excited to have them. Well, the good news is today's session is being recorded, so you're going to automatically receive an email in the next 48 hours with a link on where to access the archived session, just in case you want to listen to it again or possibly share it with a colleague. Also, the neat thing about participating live in a webinar is that you'll be able to interact with our presenters. We've got a button up on your toolbar that says Q&A. You can hit that Q&A button and submit your questions via chat at any time during the presentation or after the presentation, and then we'll be having a Q&A session at the conclusion of the presentation and demo. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to the SEMA Data Co-op CEO, John Wiley. John, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and we are super happy to be here today. As you can imagine, this is a bit of a milestone for us. We've been working on this project for a little over a year now with, officially staffed as the Data Co-op, and to be able to get in front of a very diverse and enthusiastic group to show what we've been working on and to, as Jamie said, make kind of our first public demonstration of this system we've been working on is truly a milestone for us, and we're very anxious to get to that. Before we get into the details, though, I would like to take a moment and introduce the SEMA Data Co-op team to you folks, if I could. Obviously, myself, the CEO of this operation, came on board first, and I bring to the essentially bring to the process here over 30 years of experience in the wholesale distribution category here in our industry. I spent about 25 years at Aerospeed Warehouse and another 4 years at Keystone Automotive, and have a very extensive background in wholesale distribution, all manner of business operations, and e-commerce. So that provided a bit of a foundation for us to start on. In building my team, the next addition was Bob Castle, who came to us from Covercraft Industries. Bob also has an extensive background in the business and is particularly well-versed in the technical aspects of data management, the industry data standards, and so forth. So Bob is really our resident in-house expert on all things technical, and we certainly welcome the opportunity for you to reach out to him at any time with any types of questions relating to systems operation, data management processes, ACEs and PIs details. Bob's got a terrific background there, having served as a past chairman of the AIA Standards and Solutions Committees and in a variety of other volunteer positions around the industry for many, many years. Also with us today is Jim Graven, our Director of Membership, and Jim is actually going to be taking over and walking you through the system here. Jim is your go-to guy for any sort of information regarding how to get involved in the Data Co-op, what does membership entail. He can answer any kinds of questions regarding how the processes go, and he is your direct conduit to the help desk services that we provide as well. So Jim is a very energetic and enthusiastic guy, and is all about providing exemplary customer service and helping the onboarding process become as absolutely as simple and painless as possible. One other thing before we get started here, I would like to give you just a really brief update on kind of the status of the Data Co-op today. Jim's presentation is essentially going to center around a very quick rundown of what the Data Co-op is, kind of our primary objectives and so forth, and most notably the walkthrough of the demonstration of our system today. But I would like to just kind of bring everybody up to speed. As I said, we've been working on this program for literally about a year. We began in earnest in April of 2012. And that process essentially began with a beta process where many of you that are on the line have and are participating in. And that beta process ran for most of the year of 2012, while at the same time we began the construction and design of our system that we're going to show you today. Where we stand as of now is that literally over the course of the next couple of weeks, we're anticipating having a fully functional system with regards to all the onboarding, validation, export capabilities, and so forth for the PIES, Product Information Exchange data. And over the course of the month of April, we're going to begin bringing on board suppliers and receivers, introducing them hands-on into the system, and giving everybody an opportunity to begin to literally work with this interface while we complete some remaining work to be done on the ACES side of things. So right now, fingers crossed, we're anticipating a complete, fully functional rollout, we hope early in May, barring any unforeseen technical difficulties. And at that point, we'll have a very robust system in place that we are sure everybody is going to find to be quite an impressive set of tools to manage your product data. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jim Graven and let him begin the process here of telling you just a little bit more about the background of the data co-op and then into the demonstration. Jim?
Yes, thank you, John. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Glad you're taking an hour with us to learn about our program here. So to start with, I know some of you folks on the call are familiar with the data co-op. Maybe some of you are not, so we're going to go just a real quick overview of it before we actually jump into our demonstration. So the mission of the SEMA Data Co-op is to create the definitive centralized data repository for the aftermarket. We want to build one place that all the manufacturers can store and distribute their data from, and one place that all the customers, the resellers, jobbers, WDs out there can come and access that information. And because we're a part of SEMA, there's always that educational component as well. And so we're working to train suppliers to take ownership of and maintain that product data, because as we know, those are definitely the experts on the product data. The goal in all this is to increase sales. We know that great data sells more parts, and through the expanded distribution of rich, complete product data to WDs, retail point of sales, e-commerce systems, we know we can help everyone sell more parts in the industry. To give you a quick rundown of supplier services, and when we say supplier in the SDC, we're talking about manufacturers. All the manufacturers that become members in the SDC have full help desk support throughout the process, and our help desk is staffed with very knowledgeable data analysts, and they're available Monday through Friday, regular business hours. You can email them, you can call them, you can online chat with them, get various ways you can interact with these folks, and they'll help you from any skill level, beginner to expert. We have a stringent validation process to ensure the data meets industry standard requirements. We offer ACES mapping and conversion to get your application data into the latest standards, and we securely store that data in the PIES and ACES formats. We can offer secure private pricing and content support for manufacturers that have a private label program with their customers, and manufacturers have unlimited exports to all approved receivers. And we mentioned approved receivers. It is a permission-based security system, so we don't transmit any data without the manufacturer's approval. There's a low fixed monthly fee for all the onboarding, validation, secure storage, and as many exports as a manufacturer wants to allow. And we also have some future applications coming that we hope to introduce later this summer, and one of those is SEMA Search, which is an online application lookup. To jump over on the receiver services side of the SDC, receivers, which is all the resellers, WDs, jobbers, retailers, e-commerce folks, you get unlimited exports from all approved trading partners. We become that single source of multiple brands of validated standard compliant data. And the great thing is we'll match your formatting and content requirements. When new receivers come on board with us, we actually do what we call a receiver study, and our help desk will go through all your data requirements very carefully, and we'll see if you match up with one of our standard templates. If it doesn't match up, then we'll build a custom template for you, and that's when you saw on that previous screen we talked about standard or custom exports. We can build a custom template so that data will flow right to you, right into your system. You don't have to stop and manipulate it or try to figure out matching up fields, any of that stuff. We'll eliminate that for you and make it as easy as possible to get that information onto your system. We can allow you to schedule bulk downloads in batch format or individual feeds on demand. You can get full file refreshers or net change updates. You can even get new product updates, and we'll talk about that a little more as we go through our demonstration. And as we talked about, it's either standard templates or custom formatted exports. And we want to be that centralized source for all the manufacturer product information, new product announcements, recalls, installation information, videos. Anything about that product, we want to be able to distribute that to the customers out there. And as a receiver, you can get unlimited exports and updates to a typical what we call single-user receiver for $100 a month. And that's as many brands as you like. We even have a free program, so if you're a smaller customer, you wouldn't say you don't need very many brands, you don't need frequent updates or daily updates, then we've got a free program. We don't want to create any financial barriers that would keep someone from accessing product data and selling more parts. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into our demonstration. Okay, what we've got here is an Excel spreadsheet, as everyone can see. And as we start the demonstration, we're going to begin with the supplier or manufacturer's role in the SDC. And so one of the things that comes to mind first is, well, how do you get that data to the SDC? How does that information become PIES and ACES information? And so what we've got here is a PIES example of how we can upload product information. And as you see, there's a lot of information here, but you manufacturers that are on the line, don't let this intimidate you. It's really not as bad as it looks. And what we've done here is really combine information you would have in a price sheet or perhaps a load sheet, and we've just basically put it into columns so we can take that format and upload it into our system. And you see at the top up here, we've got headers, and so those are ways that we can match the information you already have into our system. But what you'll see here is the brand ID, part number, hazmat code, UPC codes, unit of measure, quantity per application. You know, something very easy. You already know this information. We've got pricing files, attribute information, no hazmat, thank goodness, on these parts, but we have your digital assets, so the images are all here. And so basically, the help desk will work with you. We'll get this information put together, and then when you're ready to upload this information, you go to the Upload tab, and you'll see it's very simple. We just say, export all tabs text, and what that does is create what we call a STC flat file, and it puts it in a zip folder for you, drops it right onto your system. You'll know where to go get that information, and that's really, I hate to act like that's all there is to it, but it really is. It's a very straightforward and fairly easy process. And the good news is, for manufacturers that come on for the very first time, the help desk will interact with you, and they'll help you get this information together. So it's not all on you to get started. We kind of figure we'll help you get going, and then as we start doing your product updates and you add new products, then you can use these type of tools to really make this a very streamlined process. So next, we're going to go to the login screen, and as I mentioned, we're starting with the supplier side, so we're going to log on as a manufacturer. And you notice we have this CAPTCHA, and so you can just click through. Do you find one you can read? Thank goodness these are not case sensitive, so you can just type in the letters as you go. But we do take security very seriously, the FTC. And I did not do that correctly. Let me try this again. There we go. Okay. So now we're on the supplier landing page. And you can see we've got various operations up here. And so you can import a file. You can look at the field requirement report. You can add a data set. You can look at your published products. You can look at requests that have come in from receivers. And you can work with your users. And every supplier gets a super user, and they're in charge of setting the privileges for their employees that are going to work within the SEC. And so an example of that would be like, you may have an employee that you want to come in and have him or her look for corrections and be able to update errors as they find them, but not delete anything. So that's an example of some of the privileges that are available. So in this case, you see we don't have any waiting batches. You see some import maps here. You see some history from some login information. But we're going to jump straight into an import. We're going to take that information that we saw in that Excel spreadsheet. So what your choices are full import or partial import. In this case, these are new items for us, so we're going to do a full import. If you already had a waiting batch, and let's say you were going to make some corrections to it, then you could use a partial import and go look for those changes and make just those changes. But in this case, again, we'll go to full import, and we're going to select an import plan. As you see, we have PIES XML, ACES XML, an AWDA flat file, which is similar to ACES, or I'm sorry, similar to PIEs, and then we have an earlier PIEs version, and then the flat file. And the flat file is one we created in Excel, so we're going to choose that. And we're going to go look for that information, and here's our flat file. And then you have a choice of complete replace or delta change. If this was an existing file, you could just do delta changes, like say you updated pricing or some description information, for instance, then you would do delta change. In this case, we're going to do complete replace because it's a brand new file. So you see everything is here, make sure everything's correct. We can add a description, and we'll call this new items. We'll click next. Now, the first part of validation has begun, and now we're looking for any omissions or duplications within the records, and you see it gives you kind of a counter of how it's working. While it's doing that, I'll show you over here on the help. Remember, so you can always access our help desk, where you can email, our online documentation is available, or you can online chat with them as well. And so we finished importing, so now we know that we've got our batch put together, so we can click next. And we see that we have 35 items in our batch. And it inserted 35, it didn't update any because they're all new, and it didn't skip any because we didn't have any duplications. So now you see you have some choices. You can go to validation, you can finish and come back later, or you can get a detailed import report. Well, let's click finish. And now it takes us to a waiting batch back on our landing page. So again, you still have some of the similar choices. You can validate the information, you can make corrections, you can download it to your system, you can publish it, or you can delete it. And you see we have 35 products. So we're going to go back to validation where we left off before. And there's our files. We'll click next. And it starts. And now we're actually validating to, in this case, the PIE standards, because we have a PIE file we're working on. It's finished the validation. We'll click next. And you see our 35 products are there. We've got 32 that are valid, and we've got 3 errors we need to go fix. Now, again, you can finish and come back later. You can make the corrections now, or you can actually access a detail report. In this case, we've only got 3. It's pretty easy to go make the corrections. But if you had a much bigger data set and maybe you had more corrections to work with, you might want to go ahead and grab this detail report. And as you open it, you see it pops up in Excel, and it gives you the part numbers, the fields where the errors have occurred, and then what the errors are, in this case, some invalid flags. And so now we know what we're looking for, and sometimes, like I said, if you've got more of them, it's handy to print this out and have a little checklist to go by. But we're going to just jump right in to fix our 3 here in the corrections menu. So we'll click corrections. Oh, and sorry, I should have mentioned that finish button. If you were busy and you needed to go ahead and publish the 32, you could click finish at that point, publish the ones that are valid, and fix the errors later. So sorry I didn't mention that, but there's another great functionality we have of allowing you to go on and not hold anything up over having to fix an error. So now you see here's our 35 products, and we're going to unclick this show all box, and now it just gives us the ones that are not valid entries. And so we're going to select those with a mouse click, click next, and now it's going to show us our errors. And they're going to show up in red, and you see we've got 2 in the hazardous material flag, and we've got 1 in the application flag. So all we do to correct is highlight that and then double click, and it gives you a drop down, and we're going to say yes, this part number does have application data, so we want to make sure we say yes. And on the hazardous materials, we're going to double click again, but we're going to say no, these are not hazardous material items, because if I had clicked a yes in this field, then it would go look for other conditional fields that are tied to a yes flag, meaning to be looking for an MSDS sheet or any special shipping instructions, and we don't have that information on these parts. So we're going to say no. And another point of reference here, because you saw red X, it will display the error in red. It doesn't show a red X. The red X is just the incorrect entry in that field. So we'll click Save. And our data's been updated, so we know that's good. And so now we're back to our landing page, which is level waiting batch. And so the next process we're going to do is publish. And by publish, this means we're going to put the data into the data repository and make it available to all the customers and receivers out there. So we click Publish. And again, I know some of you may be thinking, well, wait, you didn't validate your corrections. Well, we thought of that for you, and when you click Publish, the system automatically does a first round of validation again. It makes sure that there's no errors because we don't want to let you put any bad data into the repository. So it's validated. We can click Next. And you see we've got our file again. We've got the 35 items. They're all valid this time, which is great. So we can just click Publish. And we also can get a detailed report if we wanted to. But we click Publish. It starts the job. And this will go pretty quick because then that's making that information live, and you still get the countdown to see what the progress is. almost done. And as you can tell, we haven't spent very much time at this, maybe 10 minutes, and we finished publishing. We can click Next. You know that our batch is published successfully. Click OK. And there's no more waiting batch. That information is now live to our customers, and every approved receiver out there just got a notification, got a little message saying that QuickTech, his name is fictional brand, has uploaded new products and they're available in the SDC. So now that gives them the opportunity to either wait for the next scheduled update or go and pull that information down immediately as soon as they see that message. So lots of flexibility for getting that information out there. But again, we're very proactive about notifying the customers that new information has been provided. Now, I mentioned receivers and requests. Let's jump up here and see if we've got any. And we do. We've got a receiver named Total Car who's requested our data set, new items. So we're going to click on the details, and we can reject this request or accept it. Well, purposes of this demonstration, we're going to accept. There's no others to work with there. So let's talk about our published products. We can go look at those. Here's all those items. And if we click on the details, now all that information that we saw in that Excel spreadsheet is right here. You've got all the description information. You've got all the pricing information. All that information's right there. Everything that we put in, the digital asset links, everything's there. And if you needed to make corrections to a part number, this is where you would go in and actually make corrections at the line level. If you only had one or two you wanted to make, you wouldn't have to upload a whole new file. So that concludes how we upload new products and how we validate and publish those products into the SDC. So now I'm going to log out, and we're going to log in as a receiver and go through that and show you how receivers actually access information. So we're going to log in again. Okay, as you see, now we're in the receiver landing page, and it looks very similar. We still got an operations toolbar. We've got different things we can do up here. We can generate a new export. We can set up the required fields we want to receive from the manufacturers. We can generate a part number match. We can make other requests to other suppliers. We can read the data fields, and we can also manage our users. Just like on the suppliers, receivers get a super user, and then they can delegate privileges to other employees within the company. So what we're going to do here is jump right into getting that information that we just uploaded. And we'll call this New Items. And the brand we're looking for is QuickTech. And the data set is New Items. Now one of the things you can do here is you can click Next and move along, or you can filter the products. You can filter by part type or groups. In this case, we have part types. And let's say, for example, this Total Car company doesn't work with exhaust systems. They don't sell them. They don't want to have that information available, so they can just click on the air-related items just by mouse click and move along. For file format, here are some of the options we have. PIES XML, ACES XML, the AWDA flat file. In the case of Total Car, if they actually had a custom template made, then they would see Total Car file here, so it would be their own custom format. But in this case, we're going to go with the PIES file. And we're going to select the delivery method of email. And I'll type in my email address. And we're going to ask for a full file because we haven't uploaded this information before, so we'll make sure we get everything in there, not just a net change. So we're going to click Next. And now, here's some of the great flexibility of the SDC. We give you a lot of choices. You can save the data, you can run it immediately, or you can run it on schedule. If you click Run on Schedule, now look at all the choices you have. You can run it every day. You can run it days of the week, and you can choose as many as you like. You can choose dates of the month if you wanted to do 3 or 4 days of the month, 1st and the 31st, 15th and the 31st, whatever makes sense for you and your business. And you can even customize this by different manufacturers. So you can set up your entire membership to work this way, or you can select manufacturers and run others more frequently than some of the others. We'll choose days of the week, and we'll choose Monday, and then we just need to select the time, and it's, as you see, it's displaying at Eastern Time, so we're going to say 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and we click Finish. Now that information is set up. We have submitted our new items, and we're ready to run that export next Monday. Now, you say, well, I want to get information now, don't wait till next Monday. So you can click Run Now, and just like that, it's going to send us an email that has that XML in it. Okay, one of the things I can show you while we're here is the generate part number match. And this is a really interesting tool that we have for you. And this allows the customers out there to kind of clean up your internal databases by comparing your data to your manufacturer's data. So you just simply click into this field, and you browse. You go look for the, in this case we may want to call total car part number match. You grab your file, and you click Generate Report. And it's very quick. You open the report in Excel, and what it gives you is the part number and a result. And as you see right now, these results are abbreviations. We're going to change this and actually go to spelling out the results. But just so you know, M means match. That means that both the supplier and the receiver have these part numbers in their database. The S is for supplier, meaning that the manufacturer has this part number, their customer doesn't, so then they want to go make sure they can download this part number, the new part number, and get it in their system. And then up here where you've got an R, meaning that only the receiver has this information, so the customer has this part number, but the manufacturer doesn't. Does this mean that maybe it's miscoded under the wrong brand, or it's a discontinued part number? So they just need to go do some investigation and figure out why that part number is not showing up. And so that's again, I know it went fairly quickly, but as you can tell, this is a very robust system and it moves along quickly. That concludes our demonstration of both the supplier and the receiver SDC experience. I'm going to log off of here and take us back to our presentation. And now I'm going to turn the floor over to Bob Castle so he can answer any questions you might have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jim. And we've got lots of good questions coming in, and so I'd like to go ahead and start. And I know, Bob Castle, you'll be joining us for the Q&A portion.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So one of the questions we have is, can a supplier also be a receiver? I'm interested in using the data to fulfill our own website, which is a customer pies template.
Yes, yes. As a supplier, you own your own data. You have full access to your own data, and we can set you up with the data feeds as a receiver so you can receive that data back in the format that you need. So that is not a problem at all, and that's actually a fairly common request.
Excellent. I've got another question here. As a manufacturer, can you also generate pies files similarly?
If I understand the question, well, let me talk about just the pies generation of the pies files on a total basis. From an import side, from a manufacturer supplier, we accept and can import the pies format. On the export side, we generate and can export all the pies formats. So the answer is yes to the question. The way we have structured our internal databases is we're actually structured, and it's inherent within our systems, the ACES and PI standards. So as flat files come in and everything we build and convert these things, we store them in the PIs and ACES standards internally in the system. So it's very easy for us to do anything ACES and PIs related.
Another question is there an ACES format available for Amazon's unique requirements? We are working very closely with Amazon on their requirements so that we can provide that data. I would not want to necessarily say it's an ACES file available. We classify it as an Amazon specific export file available. The good news is we take care of that internally. So as a supplier, you provide the data into us. You don't have to worry about the format that it goes to Amazon. We work with Amazon directly so that format can flow in their system. Excellent.
And that's a good question because Amazon is one of the more complicated receivers that we have.
Excellent. I've got another question here. Can you set it to email you only any changes that are made to a data set, such as a new part number or price changes, instead of the entire file?
Oh, yes, yes. Jim in his demonstration showed a full file scenario, but we're all about speed to market. That's one of our objectives to help our members, our manufacturers, to our receivers. From the point that something's available to the point that it's available downstream, we try to minimize that time as much as possible. So as a receiver or a reseller of a product, you can set up an export delivery that is simply based on net change. You will receive the notifications from that change, and then that can flow automatically in your system on a daily basis if you want. And you'll just receive the net changes from either a specific supplier that you're looking at, or you can set that up so that you receive a export of all the net changes from all the suppliers that you're receiving data from.
So
definitely we can do that.
This question kind of pertains and overlaps to that. As a manufacturer, is there a way to open the file and make changes in bulk, like going down one column of information, or do we pull the whole file and then make changes and then upload again?
There are ways of doing both. We need a little more specific information to answer your question, but this would be something that you would work with the help desk on, as well as use the tools that we have existing in the system and then are coming in the next few weeks. But yes, there's the ability to do that easily and then either re-import it or make the changes and get them in the system. For the specifics on that, you'd work with the help desk, and Tammy or Lee would, or any of our help desk data analysts would walk you through it and help you do it in the most efficient way possible.
Here's a question that's probably on the minds of a lot of our members too. How will application data be provided for performance parts which are not tied to year or vehicle?
Well, application data in that scenario, and I guess I want to clarify terms for everybody on the call, because sometimes the term application data can be assumed one way or the other. It's most commonly used in a year, make, model, submodel format, or relative to fitment or the ACES world. In the scenario of this question, what we're really talking about is the selection criteria to determine the proper part number is based more on the product attributes than they are on the year, make, model, submodel, or the traditional application data term that's used within the industry. And so what we would do is would focus on those product attributes. Our help desk would collect the product attributes, and we would store them within the attribute section of the PIES standard. Also, we are participating in a project that AAIA also is leading called the Product Attribute project. It's commonly called a PADB, or a Product Attribute Database. And this is a project to standardize attributes by part type, to make it easy to collect the data, store the data, and have it organized in a common format so you can search and compare on the data. And we're fully participating and have a SEMA group project involved in that whole effort also. So based on those two realms, we would use that data to help select and search on the parts to get to the proper part numbers.
Excellent. We've got a couple of questions here about product images. One is, is that functional yet? And then how would we do that?
Yes, we support and can store product images. Basically, we have two ways of accessing the images. One is we can store them and distribute them, and the second, you can provide us with URLs to where the images exist, and then we would export that information as far as the digital asset portion of the PIES exports out to the receiver community. We concentrate basically on the transportation and storage of digital assets, and for those of you who kind of think images there, digital assets can be anything from images, videos, MSDA sheets, etc. Almost any sort of digital asset that can help promote or sell your product. As far as accessing them, The access methodology is set up through a URL, or we transport the image to the receiver if they request to have copies of the images on their own servers.
I've got a question here. Is if we already have a valid PIES file, can that be uploaded for the first time so we don't have to completely fill out the flat form file?
Definitely. If you have a PIES file, you can import that PIES file immediately into the SDC, and if you want to use the PIES format to continually update your new applications and your new products, we accept that, and that makes things very easy.
Okay. And then I've got another question here. As a manufacturer, will there be an ability or feature to have receivers agree to, let's see, different terms and conditions in order to receive data? I think map terms is what they're asking about.
Well, we support the transportation of the map functionality. We try not to get involved in your contractual relationships between the manufacturers and suppliers and their receivers or the resellers. So we would not be involved in negotiating any terms or conditions between those relationships. We've had a couple special requests resulting from images that a agreement sheet or whatever be electronically clicked off and agreed to prior to images being delivered, and we are currently looking at putting that functionality in the system here shortly.
Excellent. I've got another question here. It says, if I'm a reseller, how would I stay current on new products that are being added?
Well, as manufacturers add products and make updates to their files, if you are an authorized receiver of that data, you will receive notifications via the messaging on your landing page and via email that is available. But in most cases, what we're finding with our membership right now is that the membership is setting up automatic features so that as net changes come in, they'll receive them on a nightly or weekly basis. And so that they don't have to worry about proactively going and getting them. They'll just flow automatically in their next data export or import.
And I got a question pertaining to that. It says, during the demo, the imported products seem to be immediately available after being validated. Is this the case?
Yes.
All right.
I almost don't want to say anything more than just yes on that. As I mentioned before, that we're all about speed to market. Those 35 products that Jim demoed went through the entire process and became available. If for instance, we're at 11:41 right now Mountain Time. If, for instance, somebody at 1 o'clock Mountain Time was set up to receive their net changes, they would receive a net change of those products that just came in, so that they could be added to their databases. And since we focus so much on during our receiver study on the needs of the receiver and what they need in their data, our goal is that as we export data to one of the resellers or receivers, it is in the exact form that they need, so that they don't really have to touch it, or what they have to do to it is very minimal for it to flow into their systems. So quite possibly at 11:41, the product is imported into the SDC, it goes through validation, and at 1 o'clock it goes to a specific receiver on a net change, and at 1:25 he sold the first unit of that product on his website.
Okay, I've got a question here that I have a feeling is common to a lot of folks. It says, we're not using a standardized PIES or ACES format. How will the custom format be created for us, and will it take a longer period of time? We're currently using a CSV file. Yeah, the way we would start the process, and I'm sorry, Jamie, is this from a reseller or is this from a manufacturer? He did not specify.
Okay, I'll answer it from both points of view. From a manufacturer importing the process, you'll find on our supplier onboarding process, what our data analysts will almost first ask you for is send us what you have. In this case, send us that CSV file, and we'll pull that in, see what it looks like. See, we'll validate it. We'll look for any issues there are in the file, and we'll start that as a starting process of how to get data into us. And we will build on that. Our goal is to make it as easy as possible for the manufacturers and suppliers to get the data to us, because we want them to focus on content and quality of the data rather than the mechanics and how to get the data through into a receiver. On the receiver side, during the receiver study, we'll also go through this process. And in the receiver side, we're obviously looking for how you fit with the numerous standard outputs or export formats we have. But if you don't fall into those, we will create a custom export to get it to you. So the key here is that you don't have to be PIES compliant and ACES compliant to get data to us. We'll start with what you've got and work with you to get a format that comes in. On the other side of the coin, if you need to receive something other than an ACES or PIES file out to load in your system, we'll work and get a format and template so that will flow into your system. So we try to make it easy on that for that. So we'll start wherever you're at and then move from there. And the help desk team, I want to stress, this isn't a help desk team that is off in a call center someplace and they read up a script when the call comes in. It's staffed by trained data analysts. Between Tammy and Lee, who are two of the point people on the team, they have over 25 years of data analyst experience in our industry collectively between them, and that extends to their whole organization. So we can help through the process, regardless of where you're in, and get you to where you need to be.
Great, and kind of along with that, one of the suppliers asked while you were talking if, understanding that you guys will help walk them through if they are, submitting a CSV, is there a minimum type of requirement that you would take, or do you want to kind of expand on that in terms of how the data comes to you guys?
Well, yes, there is basically the way we work at it is we have to have a minimum set of standards of the data coming in some sort of electronic format, and the level here is real low. I mean, we many times we're starting with the jobber sheet coming to us as an Excel file, and that's the starting point. But if you're handing us paper, for instance, a paper catalog or something along those lines, then at that point, we will either work with you or get someone to work with you so you can get it to a minimum point, starting point. And then, but what our whole focus is to give you the tools and help you be able to do that and get the data where you need it to be so we can work with it and bring it in. So we handhold you through that process. But we are a help you do it solution. And if it comes to us as, gee guys, I can only give you paper, can you do it for me? Then we'll bring some consulting in or get you with somebody who can help do that process.
Jamie, this is John. I'd like to add a little something on here if I could, kind of answering the question from a different angle, because I'm not sure exactly how the question was intended to be posed. But another way to think about terms of minimum requirements, Bob kind of went over the minimum physical and mechanical requirements, but if the questioner was asking about minimum data field requirements and so forth, that kind of falls back to where we began in the beta process. We actually used, our minimum requirement in that case was about 14 PIES fields, intentionally restricted to a manageable level as we were working through that manual process. Obviously, as we launch the production system, then we'll have full capacity for full ACES and PIES content. However, as I think as most of us know, it's very unlikely that any or many suppliers out there would have data that extensive, and frankly, it's not really required in the marketplace. So if we're talking about minimum requirements with respect to the data content, it has everything to do with what your customers are expecting to receive. As Bob talked about earlier, we do these receiver studies so that we understand the specific needs of each receiver, not just the format they want to receive data in, but also the specific fields of data that are important to their business models. So what we're able to do in the case of specific suppliers is we can literally give you kind of a consolidated view of your customer's requirements or your receiver's requirements, and that should really serve as a benchmark for the work to be done to build those data sets out.
Excellent. I've got a few more questions here, guys. We've got one. It says, when will ACES fully support the power sports industry?
Right now, AAIA has been working on and has been for the last year to flush out and bring up the power sports data structures within the ACES standards and populate that with power sports information. Right now, depending on who you talk to, it's in very good shape, or it's still building to get to that final level. As that happens, we at the SDC will be able to support that through the ACES process. But that's an ongoing process with significant applications within the power sports being added every monthly release of the ACES data coming from the AIA.
Got it. I've got another question here. Is there a flat file format for importing or providing ACES data similar to the old legacy format? There
are some flat file formats that we can work with that are similar to legacy that you can bring that data in. I do want to put the caveat on that, in that the legacy file has certain data codes and structures in there as part of the data relationship. And those codes have been eliminated by AAIA. So bringing in data in that file structure requires use of labels such as year, make, model, submodel, etc., rather than the composite codes that AAIA had in the original legacy standard. For those of you who don't know, the legacy standard was sunset at the end of last year and now no longer exists, and there is no support of the legacy standard from AAIA. If you are involved in legacy and still haven't converted to ACES or one of the other standards, please get in touch with us in our help desk because we can help you through that process.
Excellent. I've got one here. As a manufacturer, if certain customers of ours, such as large retailers, have specific requirements but do not participate as a reseller, is there a way to manage exported data for them?
Well, we would obviously want to contact them so that we have a clear understanding of the requirement and bring them on board. But we can generate a file that can be exported to a manufacturer, even if they're not the member. But what we would do is we would work with the manufacturer on that format, and then deliver that file back to the manufacturer. Then that manufacturer, in turn, could deliver that file to their respective reseller or receiver.
Got it. And we've got a question here. How is the ACES part of the file held and where?
Well, the ACES part of the file, I'm not sure I understand fully the question. As ACES, of course, refers to the fitment data in the file. So as we bring that data in and it's imported into the SDC, we store it in actual ACES data structures within the SDC. And then we'll export it out that way for those receivers who take the ACES exports, or we will build what exports we need to from extracting from that structure. So it's inherently built within the system. That's also true with PIEs, and it's also true with the relationship between PIEs and ACEs files. So for instance, you have part numbers that are flagged in the product information or PIEs section of the data as being application dependent. We proactively go out and look for the applications related to that, and we actually have validations in place to ensure that there's no dangling applications and or dangling product information related to those part numbers that have that association.
Okay, and then we've got another question here, actually a thought perhaps. Have you considered using or having a place to store actual new product announcements, possibly press releases or images to highlight a new product differently from just receiving an update that shows a new part number was added?
We have had some discussion in that area in our looking at that, but it's not currently in our current release. Jim or John, I don't know if you'd like to add anything to that.
No, Bob, I think your answer is fair, and that is obviously as we think about the future enhancements of this system, the list is very long of the interesting ideas that we can come up with about how to better present products, and also in terms of thinking about that new product announcements. You know, what we mentioned earlier about the SEMA search project, which will follow up this project, is an ideal place as well to potentially shine a spotlight, so to speak, on new product releases. So we have a very open mind about trying to implement as many effective marketing elements into this thing as we can, along with the competent management of the product data. But I think that particular example would certainly, as Bob said, fall on a list of ideas at this point that are not currently built into the system.
We've got another question here. What about using interchange numbers?
The standards themselves support the full use of interchange numbers, and as such, the SDC also supports the use of interchange numbers.
Okay. And then I've got another question here. VMRS codes. Will manufacturers be able to provide these to a customer if requested?
Yes, we'll be able to process that through. It would come in the customer requirements as we go through their requirements. The manufacturer would provide it as such, and we can deliver those codes.
Excellent. Then I've got a question here from a receiver. I may have missed it earlier, but what is an ETA on the soonest time you would have the ability to create a custom CSV file that's good enough for us to start uploading?
We need more detail on the exact amount of time it would take to put that together. That's all part of the standard receiver study. At this particular moment, we're at the tail end of moving our membership off our beta system and onto our production system. So right now we're in for the next week or so in a kind of a pause view of actually doing that type of analysis. But I would engage with our help desk, and we can give you an ETA that once we understand the requirements fully.
Jamie, I'd like to jump in here. It's John again, and just add a little color to this answer as well. This is an ideal time, really, for us to kind of underline one of the things that's very important to the success of the data co-op in general, and that is this very cooperative kind of environment where suppliers and receivers are communicating very well and working with each other to help this project become a success. So one of the answers as to when are we going to have good data exports, and another piece of that question could have been how rich are those data exports going to be, has everything to do with the supplier's ability to proactively participate in this system and dedicate internal resources to make it happen, to build out their data sets and make them available for these receivers. So any encouragement or prodding that receivers can do to let suppliers know that, hey, this data co-op is important to me, it's important to my business, and mostly it is important to us selling more of your products, then that kind of encouragement from customers to suppliers is invaluable in kind of helping everybody understand how important this project is and how important each participant's role is in making it successful.
Got it. I've got just a couple more here. Does ACES have a listing for a race car as opposed to just universal? This would be applicable to certain race-only items for cars with roll cages installed, etc.
Currently, I'm assuming that it's responding to certain part type informations and category informations. Currently, ACES does not have that broken out as a separate type. There is some discussion right now within the ACES and ACES community and discussion on the SDC side to support not only just race cars but other performance products and other vehicles on a more specific nature. The way it would be handled now currently is by setting up the specific part types for race cars as their own unique types, and then from that point in the existing scenario, we can map and bring through that data so that you can get that support. But we're also looking in terms of the standard as it talks about vehicle types, etc., to seeing what capabilities there that we can discuss with the AIA in the industry to better handle things along like race cars and other products that are unique in the SEMA space.
Another question.
The short answer is yes, it can be handled today, but we're looking for better ways of it to be handled.
Got it. Another question is, do you support QDB IDs? How do we enter this data in the system?
Yes, we do support QDB. For those who don't know what QDB is, that's the qualifier database, and it is a table that's part of the ACES standards that provides qualification information or specific information about a given part type and about a given part number. This would be the place where you would see things like certain colors or dash configurations or things along those lines that aren't specific elsewhere in the standards. And also, you'd find information of if it's all of this model, your make, model of vehicle, except this, or except this if it has a certain product attribute or a certain modifications on it, etc. Now that I've said yes, we fully support the QDB, there are limitations right now within the industry. And the industry and the AIA group has actually put together a team to look at the usage and continued usage of the qualifier database as it responds to the standard. Many receivers in the industry will take and receive information using QDB, using the QDB tables. But more often than not, the receivers are requiring that to come in notes fields rather than using the table. So because of that, and that is because there's so many entries in the table right now and so many similar entries in the table that there's some lack of consistency and some of the objectives of the table, such as searchability, etc., aren't being met. As I said, AIA has a group right now looking at that and how to clean that up and to make it a better table to be used within the standards. So from an SDC standpoint, yes, we can support QDB, fully support QBD, and it would come in your standard imports. We'd populate the table and we'd export them out. But we also are sensitive to the fact that we also may have to support that same data in a notes function, etc., for certain receivers, because that's what their requirements are also.
Excellent. I've got another question here. As an intermediary who will be working with receivers and suppliers, we'll be trying to get both sides involved in this. Are there any fees involved in participating for the receiver, supplier, or both?
Jim, I'm going to let you take this one.
Sure. Thank you, Bob. And that's a good question. We do have fees involved for both sides. For the receivers, it's affordable on both sides. For the receivers, it's $100 a month for unlimited access to all approved suppliers. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we do have a free program. So if you've got a customer out there that's maybe a smaller customer, doesn't need frequent updates and only needs a few lines, it's completely free to those folks as long as the suppliers approve them. From the supplier side, we do have a low monthly fee that covers all the onboarding, validation, secure storage, and unlimited exports to as many customers as they approve. The fee range is $300 to $600 a month. It's predicated on SKU count, and there are no upfront costs, no additional export fees, no added charges to this program.
And Jamie, if I may add to what Jim said, there is another category of an intermediary who have been retained by certain e-tailers or receivers who want to provide data kind of as a two-step program on that. Within that process, one, we ensure that the manufacturer still has ownership and control of his data as it goes through that process. We make sure that the intermediaries, if they need licenses such as ACES licenses or whatever, have the appropriate licenses through that process. And then we work with that intermediary on the two-step program within the pricing realm so that they can accomplish that goal.
Excellent. And then I've got a question here. If we go into our PIES file in the SDC and want to edit information, will we see guidelines above each column to remind of maximum field length, etc.?
We are still in the process of putting the help and support documentation together that would support that as you go through. Yes, that information will be available, and right now we're actually going through on how we're presenting it, and we'll be presenting it in the process. In the next few weeks, there's some additional tools that are coming online to help as it goes through that process, both from the PIES new part entry and piece, etc. So my answer is we're considering exactly what you're talking about here, as well as other methods to efficiently get that information to you. So whether or not it'll be right in that piece or there'll be another way of providing it as you're in that function, it will be available to you.
Great. And then our closing question here, how many manufacturers and resellers are currently participating?
Well, the information I'm going to give you is about 4 or 5 days dated, and Jim, you may want to jump in here, but the count as of about 4 or 5 days ago was 184 suppliers participating and 142 receivers participating.
Yes, that is correct, Bob. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we have covered a lot of ground here today, guys. Special thanks to the SDC team for giving this update on the current tools. John, before we conclude today's session, I just wanted to give you the opportunity for any closing comments or remarks.
I appreciate that, Jamie. You know, obviously sitting here listening to my team work through this process and demonstrate the hard work we've done so far and the terrific questions that are coming through, it really underlines to me that there's a very high degree of anticipation for this solution. So just want to assure everybody that we are working very hard, lots of overtime, and have a terrific path to a finished product here. And I'd also like to say, Jim kind of covered this as he was going through the demo, but he said something to the effect of, I know it almost looks too simple, but you know, that was a goal from the start, was to create an interface that literally suppliers and receivers could have most any competent person in their organization have their hands in this process of managing product data, whether it's the supplier side maintaining, adding to, building out content, or if it's the receiver side just managing the flow of exports and so forth. Our goal here was to take what can be a very complicated and intricate process, particularly when you're dealing with all the variables of the standards, and automate as much of that as possible behind the scenes into a user interface that is actually, we feel, going to be quite easy to learn and operate in. So we're very proud of the fact that it's a very complex process that looks rather simple. And we think that's going to be a real benefit to the users on down the road here.
Excellent. And I know that, John, you and your team, you always love the opportunity to connect one-on-one with various interested people. And so we've got the SCC contact information here on the screen because I know they welcome questions and any other information gathering that you might be doing. So please do reach out to Jim Graven, and his information is right there. Again, everybody, we really appreciate you taking time to be a part of this really incredible demonstration that we've seen today. It's very exciting, and we really appreciate you being part of the SEMA Education Institute webinar program. We hope that you have a great day, and again, keep an eye out for the recorded archive link, which we'll be sending out to you in the next couple of days. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's live meeting. Your live meeting console will remain active while you are logged in, but this concludes the audio portion of the event. Thank you so much for joining us today. You may disconnect.